So
Mm,
my time is a metric. I look at time not as like hours on the clock, but I look at time as money from a wallet, right? So let's say
yes.
you're going to travel and you have $100 budget a day. That's your budget for the day. Time, you have 24 hours in a day. How do you spend it? So I look at the things that I have to spend, my priorities, and I chart them into my calendar, and I create it in such a way that my time is allocated towards all my goals based on priorities.
Hey, Entre Leaders. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of the Leaders Lab podcast. If you are new here, I am your host, Dr. Charity C. Campbell, better known as Dr. C, and I am a doctor of management, a world-class millennial global leader, an academic professional, and a multi-passionate entrepreneur. And here in the Leaders Lab, we talk all things entreleadership, where we take entrepreneurship and leadership concepts and we marry the two together. We also talk about communication skills and balance as a millennial professional. And in today's episode, our esteemed guest is here to discuss with us how to create a clear founder vision, how to build an entrepreneur's mindset, and how to learn how to manage time and energy metrics. Our esteemed guest for today is none other than Mr. Geoff Seow. He is the founder of Mind Access Life Coaching, where he helps unfulfilled millennials create an inspired vision for their future through overcoming self-doubt with the Mind Access method. Geoff is also an accomplished academic with a background in human biological science, neuroscience, and biotechnology. Entre leaders, please help me give a warm welcome to the lab, Mr. Geoff Seow. Welcome to the Leaders Lab, sir.
Thank you so much for having me, Charity. I'm grateful to be here.
It's a wonderful thing to have you here joining us all the way from Australia. We appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here.
So, first of all, I mentioned that you have a background as an academic in neuroscience is one thing. And the reason why I wanted to pinpoint or I guess pull out neuroscience is because a few weeks we had a another expert who was up here, and she also deals with neuroscience, and she was talking about the way our brains connect and the way how we could learn more about the type of leader we could be if we would tap into our brain, tap into our brain more. But is that something that you have ever heard of before?
Not in terms of leadership, but in terms of personal capability, yes. Our
Oh,
brains have a lot of untapped potential, and there's a classic myth of we only use 2% of our brains. That's not true at
mm,
all. We use a lot more than that, but
okay.
we have to understand how to utilize our neurological side and understand how to condition our minds to get what we want. And a core
Mm,
underlying habit of personal efficiency is to create habits, right? And
nice.
you can condition your mind to respond in certain ways. So you can actually tap into that aspect, but in terms of leadership, I'm not too familiar with that.
Okay. So let me get this straight. You said we can teach our brains to respond a certain way.
It's, for
How?
example, so when we want to condition ourselves to change habits, so let's say if you want to stop smoking cigarettes, right?
Hmm.
And I speak from experience here, what you can do is you can shift that trigger into something positive. So whenever you feel the need to smoke a cigarette, you can do 10 push-ups or you can do 10 sit-ups. And over time, what you can do is you can rewire your mind, because our brains have an inbuilt mechanism called neuroplasticity. So
Hmm.
neuroplasticity is the ability for our neurons to change their organization rapidly. And you can do this through strengthening a certain behavior or certain routine. Now, neuroplasticity is very, very prevalent when we're younger. The older we get, it's harder to have that neuroplasticity. Hence why we have that saying called, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Hmm.
So there is a
Hmm.
certain age where that neuroplasticity dies down. But from a young age, our neurons are like puzzle pieces. They can move very quickly and very rapidly. So integrating new habits is all about changing the stimulus and changing the effect. And when you can control that, you can basically rewire your mind to do anything you want it to.
Wow. Okay. So does this kind of coincide with the mind access method, or is that something totally different?
The mind axis method does include some neuroscience principles. It includes
Okay.
neuroscience and neurolinguistic programming. So the
Okay.
Mind Access method, it's 2 coaching programs that I've created from scratch, and it's all about helping you get clear on what you would like to do with your life, the obstacles that you have in front of you, and the
Mhm.
strategy you need to achieve it. And as we go through this process, we unlock a lot in terms of neurological blind spots, in terms of emotional tags, things like that.
Mm.
But there are little bits that I use here and there, but for the most part, it relies a lot upon social psychology and behavioral psychology.
So why mind axis? Why is it called the mind axis? What's that about?
It's about bringing your mind back into balance. It's about the perfect symmetry of our minds. So,
Wow.
yeah, the mind axis. So, in an axis of symmetry, I was inspired by the way in which our minds operate. Okay, so we've got the left and the right hemisphere, and
Mhm.
if they're out of balance, they're out of whack. It's hard to actually get very clear, get clarity. So the
Yeah.
mind axis is all about bringing your mind back into balance, so you have clarity on where you're going to take yourself next.
Hmm. Okay. How long have you been teaching? Well, when did you create this method and how long have you been teaching it?
Right. So I haven't been teaching it, I've been coaching it.
Mm,
But I say that because they are a little bit different. But
okay.
I created this about a year ago. I've been a coach now for about 10 months, and I've been
Okay.
coaching consistently as much as possible. I've been loving the
Mhm.
process. But transitioning from an academic to coaching was not actually very hard. Personally, I've always had a certain sense of where people would come to me for advice or things like that. And I've always enjoyed it. But taking that and moving that was not very difficult. It was all about learning and changing and shifting the way I looked at things and being able to guide other people that might be facing the same obstacles, which I did several years ago. So coaching is very future facing. It's all about guiding you towards a reference point of where you want to go. While teaching is kind of just like telling someone the answer. So it's a little bit different. And that's something
Mm.
that I kind of integrated in my journey.
I like that. Thank you for explaining the difference between the two. I like that. I hadn't really thought about it that way. So you've been coaching for almost a year now, and the Mind Access method was created almost over a year ago. What has the response been to this program?
Really good. So for me, at the very beginning, I just wanted to get as much experience as possible. So at this stage, I've coached over 40 clients. I've just done it consistently and
Wow.
nonstop. Yeah, I just wanted to get so much experience and collect feedback because the more, like you can create something, but it doesn't mean that it's going to resonate with people. So you have to
Right.
be able to test it and learn and evolve every single time. So every client that I have extensively take notes and analyze it and then make my program better, make it better, make it better. So it's been
Mm.
iterated many times. I always iterate, but the whole goal is to evolve it to be better for the person that enrolls in the program.
So how did you start off, with your coaching? Like, did you already know who you wanted? Did you have like beta testers who you were like, I want you to, I want you to be a part of the Mind Access Method coaching program so you can give me like feedback? Or was it like a pool of people who already had like an interest? How did you get started? In case there are other entrepreneurs out here who, or entrepreneurs who want to move over into coaching more, but they're like, well, how? I have a program in mind, but how do I get started?
So for me, it actually started with a minimum viable product that I made a while ago, right? So for
Mm,
me, there was something I created called Your Daily Purpose, which was an Instagram page I made in, I think it was 2020, like 2 years ago.
mhm, mhm,
And my intention for Your Daily Purpose was to literally just put out content and help people, right? Because I was going through a tough spot myself and I wanted to share insightful things with the world. And it grew very quickly, this page. Now,
mm,
as I continued to build this page, as I started to shift towards my love of coaching, because people used to message me on this page. It was just an inspirational page, but people would
mhm.
say, you've made my day, you've made my week, and we'd have long chats with
Wow.
different people. And I
Wow.
started to really see that this is something I could do with my life. So
Mhm,
for me, I've owned business before. My first business I opened at the age of 21. It was a construction business. So for me, I understood that to open up a business, you don't open up the business and then figure out what happens. You have to actually understand if people want what you have. So
yeah.
I I had a lot of data from this page, and I basically looked at the data and I understood who I could help based on what was doing well, who interacted with my content, and why were they interested in my content. How could I provide them a service based on my knowledge, my expertise, my qualifications, and I
Mhm.
amalgamated all of it together to create something that resonated with a particular individual, which is the unfulfilled millennial, right? Because that's something I resonate with, and I know the way out, and I've helped people get out of it. But that's what I understood just from having that MVP. I wasn't selling anything, but the data is invaluable. Data is always invaluable, especially if you plan to enter entrepreneurship.
So what did, when you say data, I mean, I understand what you might, what you are referring to, but someone might be thinking in terms of like academia. They're like, okay, well, what am I using statistics? And of course you could, of course, that's a part of it. Metrics, all of those things. But what about written data? The what we find is it what you find in the comment section? Is it what you find in the DMs? Like, well, for specifically, I guess, Instagram. What were some of the data sources that you got? And of course, when we say data, for those of you who are like, what is data? We're talking about data. Okay. It's the data, tomato. You know what it is.
Yeah, so the data/data, the one that I collected was analytics. So Instagram gives you great analytics, which you can put into a spreadsheet and kind of like look at it. So I love doing stuff like that because, being in academia, for me, plenty of reports, assignments, my thesis, projects, whatever. It's my bread and butter. It's easy. So I took that, analyzed it, but also the comments. The comments are huge because that's where people are not just clicking a like button or sharing it. It's like, okay, they're actually invested in this, or the DMs as well. And calls, face-to-face calls or voice messages, invaluable because you get to learn about how you can help someone. And that's what I was in it for. Like, I really just wanted to kind of help people with my content. I didn't plan to be a coach at that point when I started it. I just wanted to do something for myself by helping other people. And the more I did it, the more I realized that I do have some kind of value beyond just, crunching numbers and doing research. Like, there's something more that I could do with my life that I'm passionate about. And that was the very beginning. Now, when I launched Mind Access, I did have people lined up who would take my program. So it was pro bono. I did not charge them because I have to learn. So I have to learn how to do this. So I coached about 10 pro bono, and it was completely fine with me and doing it for free. I love doing what I do, so it didn't really even matter at that point. But that feedback was invaluable, once again, to refine the program, refine the process, make it better. And that's how you do it realistically. It's data comes from everywhere. Data is information. You've got to sift through the information for what can help you evolve your business or your service or your product, whatever it is.
So these 10 pro bono, was it like a group coaching or one-on-one?
One-on-one. So it was over a period of time. Yeah.
Okay. Would you have preferred for it to be group coaching, or were you like, well, since I'm starting out, let me just do the one-to-one and see how it works better? Or,
well, I think a new coach doing group coaching would be a bit egregious. It would be like, you taking on a whole bunch of people that have different attributes, different goals, different perspectives, and trying to show them one particular thing without refining your own process. I think that'd be kind of foolish. So I only wanted to work one-to-one. Even today, I still work one-to-one. I love it because you actually get to really understand your clients. It's not just, I'll give you a bit of time, I give you a bit of time. I used to do group tutoring, academic tutoring. And that's why I understood that with coaching, I wanted to do it intimately, because that's how you can really hone in on what someone needs and how you can help them, rather than just give them pointers or teach. That's why I'm not in that group coaching stage yet.
So is the Mind Access method, is that what got you into life coaching and solopreneurship?
No. So for solopreneurship, entrepreneurship, like I mentioned, my first business when I was 21, I'm 26 now, but that was my very first foray into entrepreneurship. Mind Access Life Coaching was my first solopreneurship venture. Since then, I've actually opened up another one called 𝙦𝗟𝗏𝙀. So I run these two independently. And I just love it because solopreneurship is all about people, right? It's when you start into it, it can be a little bit lonely, but it's only lonely if you choose it to be. It doesn't have to be. You can call, like for example, we don't live anywhere near each other, Charity, yet we're talking.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So solopreneurship is a beautiful thing.
So how do you find the time to do all the things that you do with your coaching program and, running your business and making sure that you are helping your clients to the best of your ability? How do you manage your time? I guess that's the question. Not how do you find time, but how do you manage your time to do it all with excellence?
The underlying attribute is discipline. It took me a very long time to become
Oof.
disciplined, but discipline as a solopreneur has changed the game. That's the foundation, but not the answer. Um,
Okay.
when you build on top of discipline, I have a system that I have which basically allows me to allocate time based on priority. So
Mm.
my time is a metric. I look at time not as like hours on the clock, but I look at time as money from a wallet, right? So let's say
Yes.
you're going to travel and you have $100 budget a day. That's your budget for the day. Time, you have 24 hours in a day. How do you spend it? So I look at the things that I have to spend, my priorities, and I chart them into my calendar, and I create it in such a way that my time is allocated towards all my goals based on priorities. And the goals are linked from short term to long term. It's a whole process to teach my clients, but like everything is very efficient, and
Hmm.
there is a strict structure towards my time, which I follow 6 days a week, and on Sundays I do whatever I wish. But like that's how I manage to juggle so many things at once, is because I'm strict and disciplined upon myself.
Do you also find that discipline is necessary for building like that entrepreneurial mindset? Or are there other components that are, prevalent than discipline?
Yeah, there are many factors. If I were to list
Okay.
like maybe a few, it would be discipline would be one, because when you leave a job, see, there's a difference between having a job and being a solopreneur or even an entrepreneur, right? No one is looking out for you. No one is going to pay your super, or no one is going to pay your taxes or do stuff like that. It's all you. You have to do it yourself. And
Mm.
you have to be able to balance that metric of like how much are you willing to invest in yourself, because that's what solopreneurship is. It's investment in yourself.
Yeah.
So what is required, one is discipline, but also commitment is another one. You've got to be able to commit for the long term. If you have a vision of what you want, you got to commit for that. You've also got to be able to stay positive. Like your mind will constantly tell you to give up because it's hard.
Mm.
And you have to be able to tell yourself to not listen to that and focus on your objectives and what you
Yeah.
can see. If you look at the data and not what your mind tells you, you realize how far you've come. And another
Yeah.
one is also being very clear on why you're doing it,
Hmm.
and also having a balance of recognizing when you're working too much and when you need to pull back, or when you need to invest more to grind harder. But it all comes back to that balance of how much are you willing to put out and how much can you put out. So it's all
Hmm.
about understanding yourself. That's what being a solopreneur is.
First of all, what is a clear founder vision? Now, I've heard of a vision statement. I've heard of having a vision, but specifically, that it says having a clear or creating a clear founder vision. Is there a distinction between founder vision and just like company vision, business vision?
Not really. It's more of just a vision
Okay.
for you as a solopreneur and entrepreneur. But
Okay.
it's like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like is what you're pursuing something that you're passionate about? Does it align to your interests? Does it align to your values? And if
Hmm.
it doesn't, and you'll know if it doesn't because it's sucking away your energy and you hate doing it, then you'll know that
Mm.
you're probably on the wrong path. But if you love doing what you do and you could do it for free every day,
Hmm.
then all you have to figure out is how to monetize it.
Now you just said a whole lot in such a little time. You said the perfect thing right there. Doing what you love, and then you just have to figure out how to monetize it. I was just having a conversation with a young lady earlier today who is she's a virtual assistant, and I think she's amazing. And she was asking me, she was like, Dr. C, I want to be full time with you. And I'm like, listen, I need you to be full time with me, to be honest, but we need to find a way that we can monetize this so I can pay you a salary. Because at the moment, I am working, like I still have, like a part time job so that I can continue to fund my business. But oh, it would be amazing if it would fund itself, if it would begin to yield a harvest where it would fund itself. So when you said, working your passion, doing the things that you love, you just have to find a way to monetize it. Was that something that came easy for you, finding a way to monetize your coaching or your solopreneur business, or was it something that you had to find or discover by trial and error?
That's a great question. And with Mind Access Life Coaching, it was very hard. With Australia's Apparel and with my first business, DG Construction, it was very easy because it was a service that fulfilled a particular thing, right? Like, for example, construction
Wow.
or gym wear clothing. But with Mind Access Life Coaching, it was very difficult because I actually really love doing this. And like, I would do it for free. And I did it for free many times,
Yeah.
but
I was about to say, you were like, I would do it for free. I was like, but you did though. You did it 10 times for free,
yeah, I
right? I
did.
mean, yeah.
And that's what was really hard about it. It was making myself understand that you can't do that for free always, because you have to survive. You have to put food on your own table too. And that was a very difficult shift for me with Mind Access Life Coaching, because I'm so passionate about it. I put out content all the time, like 3 times a week consistently. I love doing this stuff, right? So for me to be able to change that mindset took me a lot of mindset work, a lot of inner work, to understand that money is not about financial value. The greatest thing I've learned about money and monetization is that it's not about financial value. It's about value, intrinsic value. It's a flow of energy for, will I invest in myself, and will I divert my energy towards that investment to unlock an improvement in myself? And money is just an intermediary for it. It's just an intermediary for how you invest in yourself.
So you said it was hard for you to do that at first. It took a little while. What was the I guess, what was, I don't want to say like the last straw, but what was that aha moment, like that pivotal moment for you that said, hey, okay, you're going to charge for this, or either you're going to find a way to earn an income for this, or you're not going to be able to take care of the necessities and all those things. What did you have a moment that was like that, or was it just like, no, it's just a part of the whole plan? Like, do your 10, now we start, charging or whatever. What was it like?
No, it was definitely the first. It was all about a trial and error. And, like,
Okay.
as I went through the process of like growing as a coach and learning about it, I began to realize that I was giving people results, and people were very grateful for the results that I was giving them. And it made me very joyful, and I was like, I just want to keep doing more. But the thing about the thing about that is that it's not sustainable, because then how would I put food on my table? So
Yeah.
the way I look at it is not about, like I mentioned before, I look at money as an exchange of value. If I am able to provide you what you want, and I'm able to do it in a way that you're going to walk away and feel fulfilled about your investment in yourself, then I think that it's necessary to charge.
Yes.
But it's a very, very difficult thing, and I would say that most coaches struggle with it, because
Yeah.
when you love what you do, it's very hard to charge for it, because you just want to do it anyways, right? So
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
very easy to shift into that.
I 1000% agree with you. It's like, when you love what you do, it's hard to charge for it, because you're like, I would do it for free. Wait, hey, you are doing it for free. And even though you love it as much, you are so passionate about it, you're still stressed out because you have bills that are due. And because you have bills that are due, because you have other necessities and things that you need to take care of, you have to either work a job or do something on the side or whatever, when the very thing that you're so crazy about and passionate about could be like your golden goose if you were just stop being afraid to charge. I definitely understand. And it's so funny because I'm in that boat. I am in that boat. Like, I am in the process of trying to, like you have overcome, trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this thing be monetized? Like, and to do it in a way to where, make it be monetized in a way to where, like, I'm proud of it. It still shows progress, and I don't feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but sometimes do you feel odd when you have to charge, for something? Do you feel like, oh, well, maybe not as many people will pay attention to it or like it or something if I charge, but they're always there for the free? Or is that just me?
Um, I guess no, not anymore. Not anymore.
Okay.
Because I give out a lot with my free content as well. Like, my free content, I give out a book that I've written for free. I just give it out because I want people to be able to help themselves. And if you want to work with me, that's okay. And I would love it. But I don't feel weird about charging anymore, because the thing about investing in yourself, it's like, it's when you invest in the stock market, okay, you're going to wait the long term, and you're going to get something back. You're going to get some yield or some dividends. And the same of when you charge someone, that person has an intrinsic motivation to achieve the result they want, especially with coaching, right? So, like, the thing I noticed with my pro bono is that a lot of the time they might skip a session, or they might, not complete their next steps, or, like, not complete the library I've given them. Like, my coaching program is quite comprehensive. But I noticed that when I started charging, people would do it on time. People would show up to the session on time. People would invest more in themselves, right? Because the thing about money is that it's not just about me gaining, it's you gaining as well, because you've taken the commitment. Money is a commitment. You've literally departed some of yourself to commit to yourself. And that's powerful
Yeah.
for your psychology. Subconsciously, that changes the way you look at something.
So, how would you help a leader, a fellow entrepreneur, overcome self-doubt through using your mind access method when it comes to self-doubt with monetizing, self-doubt with being more disciplined in their craft or in their passion? And I know that might not be what you necessarily focus on with others, but I'm coming, specifically from an entreleadership standpoint. Those who they deal with self-doubt, they have a vision for the future, but they still have a little bit of doubt about it. So would your mind access method be able to help them with that? And if so, like how?
See, with self-doubt, I feel it too sometimes. We all feel self-doubt. You can be the most confident person on the planet and you will feel self-doubt in maybe just before you go to sleep, or maybe when you're in the shower, when you're alone, you will feel some self-doubt, because that's normal. That tells you that you're going in the right direction, because there's something ahead of you that's such a high obstacle for you to climb that it scares you. Right?
Wow.
That's bringing you outside of your comfort zone. So the first step is to recognize, is your goal or your vision enough to push you outside of your comfort zone? And if so, are you willing to do it for you? Right? So in the context of, you mentioned before, helping someone overcome the fear of monetizing their business, it's okay. Why are you afraid of monetizing? We have to look deep into that. Like, we have to come to the very core. So, the coaching conversation is different from, say, a podcast conversation, because here I'm explaining myself. But in a coaching conversation, I'm going to help you find out what it is that's holding you back. What thought process, what emotion process, what belief do you have about yourself that you can't deliver? What belief about yourself do you have that you're afraid to monetize in case you screw it up? What's the reason? That's an example, right? That might not be the case, but like the coaching conversation is all about me helping you understand what's holding you back. So I would never be speaking at someone. I'd be asking and guiding, but it would be a very different conversation.
So it's more of asking them the questions in a way that the answer just reveals itself. I've done that several times though. Like, I've been on both sides of that, to where, you're talking to a mentor or a coach and they're asking you all of these questions and you're like, look, I just came to you so that you could tell me what's going on. But they're steady asking questions. And then there's like this one question that just triggers that, the light bulb. And you're just like, oh. And so you start giving yourself the answer. Is that kind of like what you see happen as you are asking the questions to your clients?
Yeah, exactly. Because as a coach, my responsibility, if I resonate with you in your situation, is to understand the endpoint you want to achieve and help you get there. It's the same as
Yeah.
like an athlete needs a coach to help them unlock their potential. A life coach or a mindset coach does the exact same thing, because we can see what you want and we understand it. But if I am to just tell you what you need to do, you're going to reject the principle, because as we all know, if you're told what to do, you're going to reject it. That's just the way we are. We need to process it. And to process and to go through, you have to unfilter someone's mind and reach the very root of their core and help them understand what it is that's really going on, and then work their way towards the future. That's why it's really important to ask questions. And if you ask me questions, I will always answer it. But the key there is for you to have that genesis, because when you have that light bulb moment, you make things happen for yourself, because that's where the drive comes from. That's where the motivation comes from, the inspiration.
Okay.
Me telling you doesn't do anything for you.
Let me ask a question about metrics, managing metrics. Okay. I know it's a slight shift here, but managing metrics. We talked a bit about time, the measuring time, and how to manage time. But when you say energy metrics, what are you specifically like talking about?
So there are three metrics that we balance in our everyday life, right? Always.
Okay.
It's time, how we spend our time, where we invest our energy, which I'll come into in a second, and our resources, right? So
Okay.
our energy is the amount of energy that we can invest in a particular day, because as much as we would like to, just work, or do this or do that, we're like batteries. We wake up and the battery is full, depending on how well you slept. And as you go throughout the day, your battery will decrease. But there are multiple components to this battery. These attributes come in the physical and the mental. Okay, so the mental battery is your willpower, your ability to make good, clear decisions, your ability to choose and prioritize based on relevance. And the physical is how much energy you have to invest towards your physical goals, like, for example, exercise, your work, or whatever it is. So when you
Okay.
plan your day out or you look at your day, you have to make sure that you prioritize based on how these metrics can be balanced. For example, if
Okay.
you try to work 18 hours a day, that's not going to work out very well for you in the long term. So you
Mm-mm,
have to
mm-mm.
find out exactly where that metric stops and learn how to balance it well. Learn how to take a break too. It's important to take breaks. We can't work all the time. We've got to charge up that battery and then go again. That's how we refresh ourselves.
That's that work-life balance that we talk about, trying to make sure that you have that work-life balance. Add a little me time in there, and what is it called? Self-care, definitely. Add some self-care and me time in there, family time, all of that, so you can be balanced. Because 18 hours a day, it's not what you want to do. I've done that before. You know, yeah, I've done that before, and I was also in school too. Like, I mean, if you think about it, we as millennials, we've done some really crazy stuff,
Oh yeah,
all in the name of grinding, like our grind culture, all for the sake of culture. And it's just like, I don't like that culture. I'm gonna create my own culture. Like, I want to be a part of a different culture because this, working tirelessly. And I mean, there's so other millennials out there who feel exactly the same. That's why so many of us are entrepreneurs. So many of us are creative professionals, going out and making whatever we are passionate about become the profession that we choose, turning your passion into your profession. And so, one of the things, and I'm so glad that you did bring up learning how to manage these metrics. It's really about the balance of it all. Because if at any point in time you become imbalanced, then something somewhere is going to go awry. Like, if you're imbalanced in your self-care, your psychological well-being, which you could probably talk to us about that. But in terms of neuroscience, and if you're dealing with something, or if you're psychologically, I'll say off, like, imbalanced, it will affect other areas of your life, right?
absolutely. Have you ever read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
I have.
You know, habit number 7, sharpen the saw.
Say it again.
You know,
Sharpen the saw.
it's called sharpen the saw. It's the last habit in the
Uh-huh.
book.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just going to describe this for the audience. Just, I think it will encapsulate it better than I could. It's so a man walks into a forest and he sees a man trying to chop down a tree with a blunt saw. And he says to the man, "Why don't you just take 5 minutes to sharpen your saw, and then you could chop down the tree even quicker?" And the man who's cutting down the tree says, "Well, I've got no time to sharpen my saw. I'm too busy trying to chop down this tree." Well, the same goes for our lives too. If we spend all of our time, just continuously grinding, but we're not taking care of our mental state, we're not taking care of our physical state, our spiritual state, or our social/emotional state, then something or other is going to give way in a professional sense of what we do, and we can begin
Mhm.
to resent our lives. And the moment we resent our lives is where everything goes topsy-turvy. You have to love yourself first, and while you love what you do, you also have to love yourself first and respect your own needs first. And we do have needs as humans, basic needs, not a lot, but we do have basic
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let me ask you: Do you work with clients from all over the world, or is it only maybe in Australia? And I feel like I know that answer because because you alluded to something like that earlier when you were like, we never met before, but here we are now. Because technology. Are you open to clients being all around the world?
Yeah, it's completely international. The Monetize method, completely international, designed for people all over the world. If you have a laptop, you have a camera, you have the internet, we are set.
That's awesome. What do you feel like is next for you?
What's next for me is to compound upon what I have. I've spent so I left my full-time job in clinical research in June last year. And since
Okay.
then, I've been working tirelessly. I love what I do. So since then, I've built up 2 companies. The
Hmm.
next step is to compound. I want to improve upon what I do. I want to make myself better, and I want to learn more about how I can provide a better service and a better product to my customers and my clients. And that's my main focus of what I want to do next.
So that's what's next for you, compounding. I like that answer. I did. I really like the answer, because sometimes we tend to have that shiny object syndrome. Have you heard of that? The shiny object syndrome.
Oh yeah, I used to suffer from
Oh
it
yeah.
greatly.
So sometimes we have that and we'll be like, well, this is what I'm doing now, but what's next is all the way over here. And you're like, woo, that's a bit far. But I like what you say. You're talking about just compounding on what you have, just building on what you already have. And so that sounds like a very wise plan. Definitely. Yeah. Before I go into asking you like the final question of every episode that I record, I want to know, is there anything in particular that you want to share with our listeners and our viewers on today? Like, is there anything in particular about our minds and the way we can use them to improve ourselves, or creating a very solid founder vision, or managing the metrics that we have at our disposal, whichever. Anything that you want to say to our special viewers and listeners on today? I'm going to give you full stage once again, and I just want you to kind of encourage them. You can have more than 60 or 90 seconds on this.
Awesome.
He's like, I'm not giving
take it
no
away.
pro bono. All right, go ahead.
Of course I do.
ahead.
Of course I do. So the thing that I love to encapsulate upon is time, right? And we did talk about time earlier today, but there's a reason why I'm big on time. It's because you only have so much time in your life, and you can actually calculate the seconds that is included within an average lifespan, okay, which in the Western world is about 80 years. It's different everywhere else. But if you look at that and you realize that if you're spending time doing pursuits that you don't agree with, that don't align with your values, or if you're wasting time doing activities that self-sabotage you, or if you're doing anything with your time that doesn't serve a greater purpose for who you want to be or what you want to do, you've got to reevaluate why it is you're doing that. Because the time that we have on this planet can be spent in the pursuit of pleasure, or it can be spent in the pursuit of purpose. The pursuit of pleasure can leave you feeling very empty, because that's what pleasure is. Pleasure is a dopamine rush. It's there for a second and it's gone. Purpose, on the other hand, is a long-term serotonin rush. That's basically where you have a drip feed of serotonin, which feeds you the long-term feeling of fulfillment and happiness. And that comes back to a neurological level. And if you understand how to characterize your actions, how you spend your time, and your reward mechanisms, you can basically biohack your brain in a certain way to change your entire outlook on life. You just have to understand how it works and the underlying neurology. So coming back to time, how you spend your time is so crucial, because how you spend your time and what you get out of it will determine your level of fulfillment and your level of enjoyment of life. And at the end of the day, that's what really counts, because you only have so much time to enjoy it.
And then he just virtually drops the mic and just sits back and is just like I've said my piece. Boom. There you go. There you have it. Okay. First of all, I was over here taking notes. The pursuit of pleasure versus the pursuit of purpose. Now, listen, you were preaching here. Okay. Like this pursuit of, I was like, come on, Geoff. Yes. But I couldn't, yell while you were talking, because then people would be like, ma'am, ma'am, we trying to hear the man. Wow. Now, I haven't heard of it put that way, but I really like it. I'm not going to say that I'm stealing it. That was good to me. Wow, Geoff, this has been so awesome. Okay, so before I ask the last question, tell the people, how can they connect with you on social media? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
The best way to reach me on social media would be on Instagram. That's where I'm active a lot. I do a lot of things on my Instagram. So, for example, I do a live show every fortnight with different experts around the world. So you hear from people who are experts in terms of happiness or fitness. I've had different people in terms of self-mastery. It's always changing, and I connect to, it's part of my greater network, and I just have these different people that come on, and it's a show about them. So you learn a little bit about me, but you learn about them and their expertise. So that happens on my Instagram. And in terms of the other social networks, I've got Facebook. LinkedIn is another big one. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. TikTok, slightly I'm on TikTok as well, but I want to expound on that. And also you can find me on YouTube as well. But these are the main channels. So Instagram, if you want to get in touch, that's the one. It's Mind Access Life Coaching, and you can see in the banner below.
And also, in case you all were wondering, you can check his website out. It is mindaccesslifecoaching.com.au. That .au is for Australia. Check out his website. And then too, if you want to Now, do you prefer email or you prefer the contact us or Instagram?
You guys can do any of these ones, but the easiest way
Okay.
to reach me would be Instagram.
So in case for those of you who are listening, you can't see the screen, don't worry, we're not leaving you out. You can check the show notes below, or if you are also watching on YouTube, you can check the description box below, and all of his contact information and how you can connect with him will be right there at your disposal. So the last question that I want to ask Geoff, that I ask everyone that comes to the Leaders Lab is, what is the one characteristic that you believe every leader, no matter what industry, no matter what field, no matter what, age, background, whatever, what is the one characteristic that you believe every leader must have?
Foresight. Foresight. I know like a common one is empathy, and that would be a close second for me because you need to be able to relate to people. But
Yeah.
if you're a leader, and I speak from experience because in my previous work, I was a leader in many capacities. And if you are continuously reacting to situations as a leader of your team, that puts your team in a lot of stress. As a leader, you've got to have the ability to see far into the future and predict obstacles and find a way to make life easier for your team. Because being a leader means leading from the front, not leading from the back. You're not telling people to go out there and fight your battle. You're putting yourself first. And the only way you can put yourself first is if you're able to predict the things that are going to happen. Based on past events, you can predict, or you can predict based on the situation. And that involves grounding yourself in reality and being observational. When you're observational and intentional, you have foresight.
Listen, no one has said foresight. They've said vision, but they haven't said foresight. And I want to ask you, I know I said the last one was the last question. I lied. I'm sorry. It was not intentional. It was not intentional. But I have to ask this question. Is there a difference between vision and foresight?
Yes, because a vision is for yourself, or you can create a vision for your team, but a vision is the end product. So let's say the vision might be like a year or 2 years from now, right? But from where you are now to where you want to get in terms of your vision, if you're running a team, there are going to be many obstacles. It's natural because life is full of obstacles. That's how we know we're alive or we're succeeding, is because there are obstacles in front of us. So therefore, the ability to have foresight is to understand when something's going to become a problem well before it becomes a problem. And then you can create a strategy to approach it. And that strategy can be taught or delivered to your team so that therefore you don't meet that stumbling block. And foresight can also come from experience. It's where something's happened in the past, it's going to happen in the future. Because guess what? Things are not that multivariate. There's always going to be a stimulus and there's going to be an outcome. And if you can predict that, foresight is going to be your best friend.
You get claps from me. That was a great explanation right there. That's a sound bite. Wow, this is so awesome. Thank you so much, Geoff, for joining us in the Leaders Lab one today. This has been very, very, very valuable. And I believe I speak on behalf of all the listeners and viewers who have tuned in today to say thank you so much for being with us. We definitely appreciate your presence here.
And thank you so much for having me, Charity. I'm very grateful to be here as a guest.
You're welcome. So listen, that's all that we have for you today. I really hope that what was shared, that it touched you in a way. I'm sure it gave you some answers. I tried to ask questions that I think most of you would have been interested in having answered and having a bit of guidance. And it's always good to hear somebody's story about how they got started, why they got started, what they're doing, how they're going to move forward, because that is something, no matter which part of the journey you find yourself in, no matter which part of the process you find yourself in, their answer of their experience or what they're currently going through, I'm sure that it helps you in some way. So I want to say thank you. And not only that, thank you for tuning in today. You didn't have to. You could have listened to any other podcast. You could have watched any other video on YouTube. You could have. But here you are with us. And I want to say thank you so much for that. I do not take your presence for granted. I don't take your support for granted. And I hope that something that we have shared today will help you in your journey to becoming a better leader. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Leaders Lab podcast, download today's episode, rate, comment, and share. Share. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that like button. No, how do YouTubers say? Smash that like button. I loathe that, by the way. I hate it so much. But go ahead and smash that like. Why are we so violent? Just ting. tap the like button, okay? You don't have to be violent with it. Ting, tap it. Okay, let me get it together. Y'all know. And subscribe and then share. Don't forget to comment. Let us know how did you like what we talked about today? And leave a good message for Geoff. Go and bombard all of his social media. Just go find him on Instagram, LinkedIn. He also said he's on YouTube. He's being more intentional about TikTok and Facebook. Go wherever he is and let him know that you saw him in the Leaders Lab. And you can also connect with me everywhere on social media with the handle at DrCharityTV. That's all that we have for you on today. I'll look forward to seeing you next week in the lab.
Thank you for listening to the Leaders Lab podcast. Visit our website at www.drcharitytv.com.